My prior video on the topic of AI aimed to situate intelligence philosophically and politically with what are distinctly human elements: our capacity for creative thought and intentional understanding. AI inputs and outputs data based on its programming. Chat programs are designed to emulate human behavior to present the appearance of knowledge. Image programs draw from image data and output visual responses to prompts. AI is neither creative nor conscious. It does not understand or think. There's been a lot of writing lately about ChatGPT, DALL-E, and their connection to work and automation. All of the writing on AI that I find is about what AI is and what it will do. That is, an explanation of the technology and its ethics. These are not my interests of the moment. My question is in what AI means for consciousness, our consciousness, and the course of human work and creativity. How should we proceed to preserve a humanity that still thinks and feels? These are not questions for science or tech companies to answer. They're questions for philosophy. My specific question for this video is this: what does AI mean for artistic expression and artistic practices? And from this question, what does AI mean for the future of human life and work? My thoughts on this question are changing the more I read about AI. A month or so ago, I was filled with gloom and doom about ChatGPT and how it will accelerate the loss of wide fields of practice in ideas, art, politics, storytelling, and education. The concern is that it will destroy careers of those who write prose, write and produce music, and work in illustration and design. These are real concerns. Music has been on this path for a long time, at least since MIDI in the 1980s and Pro Tools in the late 90s. I worked for DigiDesign and Avid in the 2000s. Pro Tools enabled a music engineer to quote-unquote write a detailed automation into a mix's playback and render that output as a completed song. Both MIDI and Pro Tools were tools to get work done. AI in music is different in that it does the work. It writes the song. Much of why AI can do this is because music made by humans has become artificial. The pattern for a standard hit has been set. Music used to be written in a more horizontal process of writing song sections and developing lines of melody. Software enabled a vertical approach which layers streams of automated loops and synthesizers. Popular songs over the past 20 years have decreased in originality and increased in their formulaic structuring. Musicians don't play instruments in most of the popular music sold today. Instead, the computer mimics instruments and plays it back in automated layers of sound. None of this is AI. People are still doing the layering and the programming, but it is opening a path. Music technology not as a tool, but instead as an idea machine. This is AI replacing human originality by automating and mimicking human trends. As we make more automated music, AI takes the next step to mimic our automation. We're making it easy for it to make us unnecessary. So that's bad. But there is an optimistic way of looking at this. AI will not kill music. It will instead allow the proliferation of artificial content. Art will be something else, or it will need to be something else. This brings me to this hypothesis. AI isn't bad for art, it's bad for content and the commodification of content into products. As I argued in my previous video, AI works on a logic of intelligence, one that has been nurtured by human development. We can even think of AI as natural, nature in the sense of that which grows out of the process of time. By this definition of natural, biology, intelligence, and electronics are not separate. They together developed naturally in a global networked ecosystem that humans built. Some version of our cosmic narrative was bound to manifest in this way. Nature is what is nurtured, and what we've nurtured over a couple thousand years are languages of abstraction and appearances, sciences of objects and outcomes, a need for efficiency, and a desire for acquisition. Brought to the arena of today's hypercapitalism, our languages, practices, and desires have produced a commodity of information. The capitalist ethos is a global economy of information produced in a discourse of facts, data, and knowledge production. By knowledge, I don't mean understanding. Instead, I mean it in a Foucauldian sense of power knowledge, the notion that knowledge is a commodity and always a function of power. 21st century knowledge is grounded in information, and tech companies are trying to monopolize it. Our education system trains us to keep it all rolling. Our media tells the stories of its successes in business and science. AI and automation are natural outgrowths of our history. As I argued in the previous video, if AI is the next step of nature, humans are different. Humans are, of course, inseparable from nature, but unlike AI and nature, humans are capable of disobeying a natural order. Artificial is not the opposite of natural. It opposes what is original. This brings me to my second hypothesis. AI presents an opportunity for humans to rupture the dogma of intelligence, a rupture that enables the flourishing of originality in thought and creative practices. The human adaptation to AI will either be a habituation to its logic or a nurturing of what is other to this logic. The other to the artificial is the organic and the original. If a rupture is to occur, we'd have to nurture different strategies of practice that affirm creativity, originality, and human life. As I again mentioned in the previous video, the problem of AI is that our habituation produces no antagonist to overcome. We need to live what we wish to be. So that's the working thesis. Now let's explore some artistic practices as examples of this. And I'm going to focus on music. DJs have been stealing jobs from musicians for some time. It's a phenomenon that has been building over the course of at least a generation, enabled by cheaper technology. A DJ requires little skill or artistry. It's an intelligent practice. Buy the right equipment, follow the user manual instructions, and apply a bit of personal taste and some attitude. All of this is easy to automate and accomplish without human originality. Taste is not unique to humans. Just see how Spotify works to see an example of that. The DJ is a hallmark of today's automated human. It requires none of the lifetime discipline a musician must have to excel at a craft. It's an intellectual learning, easy to automate. Input, synthesis, output. This is also why automation is taking over science, a field that at one time was about discovery and experimentation and is now more about data collection, synthesis and repetition, and universal patterns of revision and review. A musician is different. A singer or drummer gains experience through the course of lived time. Skill comes in making an intuitive assessment of one's ability based on interactions with other humans. A sensory assessment spurs the practitioner to woodshed, take lessons again, to apprenticeship, to level up. The more a musician learns and experiments with others intuitively, the better the opportunity for skill to become art. Music performance is vastly different from a DJ. Fingers press frets and keys in particular ways. A voice's particularity and complexity of character plays with the boundaries of pitch and volume. Hands press wooden sticks and apply pressure at the perfect time, which is never a general, objective, perfect time. Recently, while in Chiang Mai, I was reminded that the emotion of music comes in its instability, its wrestling with chaos, and the artistic skill it takes to confront these uncertainties in the time of its unfolding. The joys of music come through the perfection of imperfections. The joy of its appreciation comes in the liveness of uncertainty. AI has none of these hallmarks. It's based on acquired data and intelligence, which means it's built on a generality of knowledge, like science, law, mathematics, and language. John Danaher writes in his book Automation and Utopia that Shakespeare's poems would not have been written if he did not write them, but a general relativity would have been developed had Einstein not done it. Science is more automatable than art. A musician has the variability, emotion, and personality that information and science lack. AI acquires information from a data set, spits out a request. Live music is done in concert with other musicians, a community of players. Skill comes from its communal aspect, with feeling other musicians in concert with each other. It extends beyond music and includes personality, idiosyncrasies, environment, and different psyches. A musical community is a particular milieu of activity. And from this particularity comes a particular musical talent, voice, and expressiveness. We listeners become part of this community. We feel its movement in time. We see instruments move, the drums shake, the singer approach the microphone. We see eye contact among players, this repetition which is always and can only be different. AI cannot do any of this. Music is a model for art outside of the artificial. Shifting from music to writing, everyone, including me, is a bit terrified about how chatbots are writing college-level essays. I'm a professor. This concerns me. Software is trying to identify cheats, but the proverbial genie is out. There will be a co-evolving system of correction, but AI will win. If there is a silver lining, it's this: AI will make human writing valuable again. Writing lacks the liveness, chaos, and community music has, but it maintains its capacity for originality, its singular voice. What will fade with AI is the standard essay, the correct format, the intellectual artifice that dominates so much writing. The academic essay is to writing what the DJ is to music. University instruction works in formulas, teaching to the test, universal standards of evaluation, permissible language, categories of argumentation, etc., etc. The more unoriginal our content, the easier it is to mimic and automate. Education will be forced to change, to take on its own sense of liveness and togetherness. It needs to build a sense of community in actual time. I notice in the writing that I see about AI that there's a lack of discussion about the confluence of tech business, government, and science, and how they're all wrapped in the cycle of capitalism. AI is an exploitative industry on many levels. There is no doubt about this. At the same time, it's the defining ethos of our time, an atheist version of a religion, a hierarchical, top-down religion organized by inequality of wealth and blind faith in its promise. What's going to happen is that as automation such as this increases, capitalism will do what it does better than human beings can: recognize the opportunity, take advantage, and adapt. AI is more intelligent than people, and so is capitalism. People go willingly and are guided by trust and good faith. Capitalism doesn't. Like AI, and unlike people, it has no unconscious need to be moral and communal, none of the psychic complexities of hope, optimism, and other such delusions. It only requires human faith, and the faith humans have in capitalism is today unassailable. Capitalism will need to be the battleground of the rupture for humanity to continue with any notion of free will, free expression, and growth in human character. All of this leads me to my final thesis, which I've been hinting at all along. If AI does bring a battle of human versus machine, it's not that the machine will become too much like human. It's the opposite. That human will become absorbed willingly into the logic of the machine. The fight will have to be in humanity doing humanness better than machines. My hope, my only hope, is that AI replaces all that consciousness shouldn't be bothered with. That is, information, facts, data, programming, testing, and even analysis. Humanity must recover what makes us human. We are never meant to be information processing machines, as universities are now training young students to be. We should never have placed such strong emphasis on facts as the evidence of virtue. We should never have become archaeologists of data. That's technology's job, or it can be. Let AI do all of this in the background. I'll go a step further. Let AI be our analysts and our explainers. In a sense, we'd have to upset the entire Enlightenment tradition. Technology has usurped this grand idea and is pushing humans aside. Offloading information, intelligence, logic, and analysis, humans will need to rediscover togetherness and community to survive and indeed to thrive. My hope, returning to the musician DJ example, is that we encourage the interplay of live togetherness. From the mind of the drummer to the sensory motor operation of gripping skin on wood, feeling the balance and applying the right tension, expressing this outward to join the guitarist's mind, effortlessly holding a plectrum and applying just the right amount of force on the strings, the other hand rapidly shaping the chords, and fingerings brought about by improvised shifts in that one player's creative sensitivity and experience, back again to the drummer who feels this, etc., for every musician in the band. I'm using music as an example, but it works well as an ethics. And I suppose in this sense, I am proposing an ethics. We all need to become musicians, not literally, but as a model. Even writers and artists who work alone will need to feel the musician's sense of play, the togetherness of life beyond the computer monitor. Digital art, academic displays of metaphor, explanations, clever wordplay, AI can handle all of this stuff much better. To be human, we'll have to become those activities expressed within or as an outcome of shared spaces of togetherness. Conversation, politics, love, exchanges of time in experimental and improvisational ways. This will become humanity's gift, which it is so uniquely gifted at, but which we've forgotten in the capitalist need to be factual and informed, to be trained as little producers of knowledge and capital. If I'm right, it means the skills we're currently training for school are wrong for the future. Educators put fear into students and their parents to learn intelligence to keep up. But it may be that the opposite is true. Anything close to intelligence production, the inputting and outputting of data, will become obsolete human practices. The arrangers of pixels on a screen, the computer programmers, the data analysts, mathematicians, anything with a law, logic, code, or pattern, all are at the risk of replacement. To contribute, one will have to work hard learning a skill that is uniquely human. Originality will become the desired other to the artificial. It's best that one work on something that exercises improvisation and real-time adaptability. Now, this will be a struggle for generations of children addicted to streaming endless patterns of facts, statements, images, these things that appear on our mobile screens and surfaces. It will also mean that the concepts of work and labor will have to be reinterpreted and change. We'll need to finally address the problems of income inequality. We could begin by holding tech companies responsible for decades of addiction, anxiety, depression, and a number of other social ills, not to mention the exploitation of land and labor. Perhaps we can funnel this wealth back to its former consumers and makers who have been damaged by the products made. There are other practical issues others can discuss far better than me, but it seems we will need to turn to a universal basic income solution. There are opportunities here for tremendous change. There are other monumental challenges in avoiding a looming danger. The most important and ignored is the continuing zeal we currently have for the mechanisms of capitalism. The danger in what I'm suggesting, and this is very real, is that as we move forward, what I'm suggesting becomes also subsumed by capitalism. That this crafting of originality becomes a commodity, one only the wealthy can enjoy, or worse, a trend that fizzles out. This is why critiques of capitalism must go hand in hand with prognosticating AI futures and vice versa. Hopefully we can retain enough humanness to be critical as well as communal. Capitalism and its mechanisms can ride the AI bandwagon and become cordoned into the background along with technology's other artifices. Capitalism can no longer be treated as a living organism, the free spirit, the funny AI chatbot that we so often believe it to be. It needs to be mechanized along with other AI and automation tasks. I say cordon, not limited, because it can expand and grow, but in the cage that we built for it and which we monitor.